Hi everybody. In today's video I'm going to talk about the new LakeMaster VX mapping chips. And on the left I've got just the regular standard one, and on the right I've got the premium. The premium is for Wisconsin and the standard one is for the Great Plains. So I'm going to talk about items in this video that are in both of these chips. However, I'm going to put in the premium one just because I want to show a lake in Wisconsin, but I'm not going to go through the premium in this video. That'll be a whole nother video. So I'm going to pop the mapping chip in my slot. Now before you do this, you do have to have the most updated software. And the software that you're going to need is going to be for the Solix, it's going to be the 4.040 or later. And for the Helix, it's going to be the 2.720 or later. Now I'm going to be showing you how to do this all on a Solix, but all of these features are available on a Helix as well. So I'm popping the chip in and it's starting to recognize it, and it brought up the map. Alright, so the basic features that both chips will have, whether it's the standard or the premium, is a thing called water level offset, 3 chart presets, shallow water highlight, depth highlight, pre-made color palettes, and what they call precise contours. Now all of that will be covered in this video, and down below in the description of the video I'll have the timestamps for each of these sections, so you can easily toggle. Just put your cursor on the bottom of the viewing bar and you can jump to different portions of this video very quickly and easily. Also on these maps is a thing called Smart Strike, which is something that they used to have in the legacy chips now, where you can start to put in parameters for certain species of fish and find out where they would likely be. That's going to be an entirely new video because that's quite in depth, but I'll just show you the real basics on this one as well. Now the premium card, if you're interested, I'm going to have a whole separate video for that one, which has all of these same items that I just mentioned, but in addition has a thing called 2 shaded relief and aerial imagery. So those two things are offered on the premium. Alright, so I'm actually just sitting in my garage, but I've toggled to a lake in the Madison, Wisconsin area. And one of the things that they feature is precise contours. So I'm going to start zooming in right here. And you're going to see as this refocuses, in the older models, as you would zoom way in, the contours would stay kind of fuzzy, but these are getting very, very clear. Let me go out here where there's a lot of contour lines and we'll zoom in a little more. And you can see as soon as it refreshes, it's very clear. So that's an upgrade for these VX cards. Alright, so another feature that these new chips have is water level offset. Now the older models, what they're calling now the legacy chips, also had water level offset, but these are more advanced. There's more settings that you can use. So what I want to do is go to my menu bar. I can do it from the keypad over here, or I could, on the Solix, just press it right on the screen. And then I'm going to toggle down, and just below Smart Strike is chart options. So I want to open that up. And once I open that up, I'm going to click on depth highlights. Okay, now depth highlights, I can turn it off, and when I do, you can see over on this side that there are no depth highlights. But if I turn it on, it's going to show you some depth highlights. So the first one that I would typically use is shallow water highlight, because I don't want to run into rocks or anything, and so generally I set mine on about 3 feet, and you can see I've got a red color. For me that means caution, but I could change this to any color I want, so you can customize this as you wish. And then I've got an option for a second depth highlight, And so if I turn that on, I've already preset one. The range is from 4 to 8 feet. And you can now see the green that's showing up here. That's that range. Now I can change this to anything I'd like. I'm gonna click on this, and I don't want it that high. I could change it to, let's say 4, and then the max range, maybe 4 to 12. Maybe on this lake that I'm fishing, the weed line kind of ends right around 12 feet, let's say. So 4 to 12, there it is. Let's let it redraw. It'll refresh over here on the right, and there we go. So you can see I've got the red over here, and I've got the green. If I wanted those to actually blend together, I could just turn the mid-range that's minimum to 3 feet, and that'll start right there. Now, so that's 2 settings, which the older the Legacies had as well, but you have more options than that. And again, I can change the color palette for that. But for me, usually I use green because that's where the weed edge ends. But now I can go to add another highlight, and this one I'm going to change. It's orange. Let's change that to maybe a deeper zone. Let's go 12 feet to, yeah, let's go 12 to 20. And there you can see it's starting to redraw over here on the right. So now I've got 3 palettes. And again, as usual, I can change the color. And then here's another one. So maybe I want to try to locate some humps that top out in deeper water that maybe are anywhere from starting at 20 feet in water that's as deep as, let's say, 40 or 4 minutes. Yeah, let's do 40. Okay, so give it a second to refresh. Now you're probably not going to see any on here because I'm on a shallower part of the lake. So let's get out of this and let's zoom out a little bit and just see if any of that showed. I don't know if there's any humps out in that depth zone. But anyway, that's how you would do it. So you've got the ability for 4 custom settings, and you can change the colors to anything you want. I'm sorry I misspoke in that earlier section. I was calling that the water level offset, but that's actually called shallow water highlight. We do have a water level offset, which you did have in the older models as well, but I'll show you how to do that. So I just bring up my chart menu and I go to water level offset and make sure that it's turned on. Right now it is, and it's on 0 feet. But you may get out on the lake on maybe a really dry summer where the water levels aren't where they should be. And if I get out here and the mapping chip says 38 feet, but it's really only 35 feet, then what I would do is just dial this back 3 feet, and then it'll redraw the map. Same thing if you're in a flooded stage and the water is very high, I would redraw it. Let's say it's 4 feet high, it would redraw. And so that's something that's no different than the legacy maps, the maps that we've always had. And that's always a really good thing to do. Generally speaking, when I get out on the water, I do that right away. And I tend to try to get out into some deeper water rather than doing it in very shallow water. My philosophy with that is they're going to have more accurate readings deeper than 5-6 feet. So I would get out into at least 10, 15 feet of water, maybe even 20 feet of water, and then I would do my water level offset. All right, so the next thing I'm going to show you, and this is probably one of my favorite features, are the presets for the color palettes. And again, this is going to be on both maps, whether you get the original, but the standard or the premium. So again, I'm going to go to my chart menu, and right here it says depth color palette. Now, if you've got the standard model, it's going to be up here as well on the screen. So I'm going to click on that, and these are presets that I can turn on. So I can't click on these, or I can, but nothing happens, so you have to turn them on. And this is the first one right here. And if you look around, you can see that it's kind of a really dark brick color is the shallowest water, and then it progressively gets to a lighter orange, and then more of a bright orange like a pumpkin orange, and then several more shades of orange. So let me get out of this and zoom in a little more so you can see. Let me get over to a break. Actually, let's go up to this shoreline up here. And there you're starting to see the shading. So it goes all the way out to different shades of yellows and then greens, and then eventually you get to lighter blues, and the darkest blue is going to be the deepest water. And so this is really a really neat function. This is preset for you. Now I will tell you, if you do the, let's say the shallow water highlight in red, that is going to cover this up. In fact, I'll show that to you right now. So I'm going to go back to the chart. I'm going to go to, again, got to toggle down. And I'm going to go to depth highlights, and you can see this is what it's going to look like, but I haven't turned it on yet, so you're not seeing it over here. But if I turn on the shallow one and it redraws, now you're going to see my red that I had put in there. And all that did then, it seems like it pushes out. Well, let me get out of this. And let's zoom back in. It seems like it pushed out that dark brick a little bit. I'm not positive on that, but that's what it looks like. So if I continue to zoom in, I have my anything 3 foot or less that's highlighted. Okay, so we're going to check this out. Right here I can see that at 20 feet the yellow turns into green. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and turn off that shallow water highlight and see for sure if it did push out the shadings out into deeper water. So let's just see. Let's go back to chart options, depth highlights. I'm now going to turn off my shallow water highlight and then close this out. And no, it's still at the same. So it did not push it out. It probably just covered up a layer. Yeah, it looks like it covered up the darkest of the brick. That's what it did. So yeah, it does not change those colors at all. So let's go back to the other options. So you got this color palette, number 1. Number 2 reverses it. And I'll get out of this so you can see what I'm talking about. So if I zoom out, now the deepest water is this red or brick color, and the shallowest water is blue. Honestly, I don't like that because I'm used to the dark water being blue, but some of you may find this more advantageous for your situation. That's just me, my personal preference. I probably wouldn't use that. All right, going back to it. Let's go to number 3, and then you can see 3, 4, and 5 are all blues. So there's just different shadings of blue. I'll zoom out a little so you can see. Whoop, I gotta get out of this so you can see it. So we got kind of a pale blue, a paler blue, a very pale blue, and then white. So white is the deepest water. All right. That's number 3. Let's try number 4. It's going to be darker blue in the deeper water. And it's redrawing. There you go. So now white is shallow. Then you got your lighter blue is a little bit deeper, all the way out to the dark blue. And then this one, you got extremely dark blue here and then out to white. So these are things that you can play with. Now there's also a way to manipulate these. So you can see the blue colors are set on 20. And if I back it off, no, we gotta let it redraw. I'm gonna back it all the way down to 10 and we'll just let it refresh. There it goes. So you can see it's changing the shading a little bit. So these are customizable to a certain degree, and you just got to figure out what you like the most. If I go back to color palette 1, this is only for the blue colors, so nothing has changed. So it wouldn't change for 2 at all, but it would change for number 3, for instance. So if I want to dial that up, let's see. Oh no, it's not 3. It's only 4 and 5, it looks like. Only 4 and 5. So that's going to refresh, and now it's set on 20. So you got a little bit of customizable depth palettes. All right, another new feature for both the standard and premium is what's called chart preset. And on the Solix, there's a couple ways to get to that. One is go to the same menu, chart, toggle down to the bottom, not the bottom all the way, but to chart options. And you'll see over here, there's chart presets, and there's a fishing, a navigation, and a user. And these are all presets. So in other words, with a quick change of the settings, when I'm on the fly and I want to run from somewhere else on the lake, I can click it on navigation. You can see the background color has changed a little bit. I could put it on user. So I've got 3 presets that I could have. I may want a color palette on user that's a different color palette on fishing, for instance. The other way you can get to this is, again on the Solix, is right up here. Okay, so I'll show you that again. It looks like a fish on a piece of paper or on a map. You click that, and I can quickly go to navigation, or I could quickly go to user. Now, there you go. So again, I could have different color palettes, and the way I think of this, it's kind of like when I go to my favorites, and I've got some quick access to different favorites. You know, I can easily get to my 2D. I'm in the garage, so you're not going to see anything, or my side imaging. I kind of look at it as that. So in other words, I can have 3 preset configurations. So that's kind of a nice feature too. Okay, so another feature of these is really almost an unlimited amount of adjustability or customizing. So if I go to chart options, for instance, let's click on chart objects. So I've got my option between navigation, lane, water, and land. So on the water, I can have things like rocks show up, or I could turn that off. There's a lot of different things that I can do with that. Even with the rocks, I could filter it at different depths. So that's one thing you can do. Depth contours. So I could turn the contour lines off. I don't know why you would want that. You buy these mapping chips to have the contours, but you might want to. Contour density I have set on high, but you could change that to medium or low, and I'll show you what happens when I'm on low. You can see over here I've got very spread out contours. If I go back to high, you can see more contours. So depending on your situation in your lake, you may want to change it to medium or low at different times. I'm a big believer in seeing as many contours as possible, so I like to keep it on high. But you know, when you get to lakes that have really steep drop-offs, you get all those black lines that are you know, bunched up on top of each other. You could change the contour color. If I don't like it being black, I could change it to blue, which is going to be hard to see depending on your color palette, or gray. I think I like mine in black. Your Let's go back another one. Layers. Now layers is only going to show up on the premium, and this is a premium card, so you're not going to see that. I can go to general, and there's lots of different options. One thing I do like is being able to see the casting rings. So when I have a waypoint, I don't want to drive right up on that waypoint, so you would just simply turn that on. You could have as many as 4. See, you can see down here, so there's 4 rings. I don't think I would want that many. 3, maybe 2. Actually, I would probably just go to 1. So there's 1 ring, and right now it's set at 30 feet, which that's pretty close. So I'm going to set that on like at least 60 feet. I mean, I want to be a cast away. So whatever you set that to, you'll know exactly how far away you are from that item. Trolling grid, if you're a troller, you can turn the grid on, which is really kind of nice. I don't do a lot of trolling, but I've trolled in my life. And and there's different options on that one. Cursor data, it's either on or off. It comes custom with it on. And then navigation data, you can turn off your routes if you don't want to see your track or things like that. You can save it right here. You can take off your waypoints if you don't want to see those. If you got a lot of them clustered on the graph and you want those off when you're in navigation mode or you're driving the boat, that might be a good idea to do, is turn them off. So lots and lots of options here on these new mapping chips. Another thing I wanted to show you in those options, if I go back to that chart options menu and then click on depths and contours, the default palette minimum range is set on 0. And if it's set on 0, basically it looks like on this first color palette, every 5 feet the color changes a little bit. So it goes yellow, orange, pumpkin orange. Every color band is 5 feet. I could change that right here by going to this and scroll that back. If I just turn it 1 foot, you're going to see it redraw over here. So now at 39 feet it changes instead of at 40 feet. If I change it again, oh, there we go. See, it's redrawing, so now it's at 41 feet and so on. So you've got some flexibility depending on what you want to do with your palette. I kind of like knowing that every 5 feet it changes. It's easy to remember, pretty easy to do the math to figure out, oh, I'm 3 different bands out, that's 15 feet. All right, so the last feature that I want to go over for this video is a thing called Smart Strike. Now, I'm only going to give you the basics of how this works because it's so complex it requires its own video, which I will have another video coming out shortly. But I go to my menu and I go to Smart Strike. Again, this is on both cards, whether it's premium or the regular card. And from here, usually you're going to have to choose a lake originally, but I already put in this lake. So it's Lake Monona in Dane County, Wisconsin. And I get to choose the species of fish that I'm going to fish for. So let's say it's bass, largemouth bass. And time of year, just click on that. Let's say it's early fall. Time of day, morning or afternoon. Other conditions, let's say it's clear skies, let's say it's windy, and the water, you only have 2 options, clear and either murky stains, so you don't have different gradients of that. So I've got that all set. Once I've done that, I can execute the search. So here we go. And again, there's a lot more complexity to this It's going to take a second to load up. There it goes. And you can see all these little pink icons. So I'm going to zoom in to an area of the lake. I got to get out of that. And you can see, just if I zoom out one notch, I can see these icons. But if I zoom in a little bit, they start to disappear, but I don't know how well you can see it, but there's purple lines around here. So let's zoom way in. And there you go. There's the purple lines. So they're showing that I should be working this weed edge or this break line at about 5. Let's zoom in even further. Yeah, about 5 to 8, 6 to 8 foot is what they're suggesting. And then you can see that there's some areas near this point where I should try some deeper areas. And so what that does is it gives you a basics of where I should be looking for the fish. Now, there's much more advanced tools on this, and you can really dial in where you want to fish, or where you would like them to suggest for you to fish. So anyway, I hope this gives you some information about these mapping chips. Again, look for the video just on the premium, and then there's going to be another video on Smart Strike coming up. So thanks for watching.